I'd like to take you back to the fall of 2003. Kol Hadash had just celebrated its second birthday, and we were lay-led. And we were incredibly proud of all that we had accomplished in just 2 years. But now it was time to talk about the future, and whether that future included hiring a rabbi. For us, hiring a rabbi was not a given. It required us to commit to the big time rather than agreeing to remain small. And it required most of us to get over the trauma of having hired a terrible rabbi at our predecessor congregation when our beloved Rabbi Friedlander retired. After much discussion, we came to the conclusion that we did indeed want a rabbi to lead us. So we formed a rabbinic search committee, chaired by Mark Friedman. Mark very quickly reported to the steering committee that we might have an opportunity to hire a young rabbi who was currently serving as a co-rabbi in the Humanistic congregation in suburban Detroit. Great! What's his name? We inquired perfunctorily. Rabbi Shalom. Shalom? Really, Mark? Are you joking? No, that's his name, Rabbi Adam Shalom, spelled with a C, not an S. Okay, Mark, you said he's a young rabbi. Exactly how young is this Rabbi Shalom? 28. 28? You're actually suggesting we hire a rabbi to lead us, who, without exception, will be the youngest adult member in the congregation? Mark, what are you smoking? But despite our skepticism about Adam's age, we invited him for a weekend visit in February of 2004. And needless to say, he was very impressive. Smart, articulate, personable, and great with the Sunday school kids. It was hard to believe he was only 28. He seemed so much older and wiser. However, despite the steering committee's enthusiasm for Adam, our bylaws required a full congregational vote in order to hire a rabbi, and we were not at all confident how the full congregation would actually vote. We figured some members might vote no just because they preferred to remain small and lay-led. Others might vote no because they were still traumatized by what happened the last time we tried to hire a rabbi. And we thought some might vote no because they didn't want the dues increase that would come with hiring a rabbi. And just in general, we were already very aware of the joke Adam often tells about how difficult it is for Jews to reach a consensus, that when you have 2 Jews, you get 3 opinions. But not in this case. In this case, 103 members of the congregation cast a vote, and the end result was 1 opinion. Yes, despite all the reasons why some members might vote no, the vote was totally unanimous, 103-0, in favor of hiring Rabbi Shalom. And believe it or not, for some inexplicable reason, I have the ballots right here to prove it. Clearly, I need to clean out my file cabinet. We often say that Rabbi Shalom is brilliant, which he is, but looking back to 2004, I think we were the brilliant ones when we seized the opportunity to hire 28-year-old Adam Shalom. Apart from his obvious talents as a scholar, a speaker, and a teacher, which we expected, he has been so wise in other unexpected ways. First, he had the wisdom not to try to make any immediate changes. Instead, he knew how much we loved our familiar traditions and music, and so he adapted to our culture and patiently introduced his favorite readings and music slowly, almost imperceptibly over time. Second, Adam immediately tried to make a personal connection with each and every member by arranging a visit to their home. When he came to our house, we expected to be impressed with his personality and his intellect, but we did not expect to be so impressed with his fierce ping-pong playing skills. Third, Adam had the wisdom and the self-confidence to embrace our beloved Rabbi Dan Friedman rather than view him as competition, and much to our delight, always honored him by giving him readings in our high holiday services. And fourth, in running the congregation, Adam has always been a good listener and suggestion maker. He's never insisted on his own agenda or dominated a steering committee meeting. Rather, he has been a guiding force, a quiet voice, and a voice of reason. I've served on the steering committee for the entire 20 years that Adam has been our rabbi, and remarkably, there has never been a single incident where the steering committee was upset with him. 2 Jews and 3 opinions? At Hadash, there is still just one opinion. We hit the jackpot when we hired Adam, and we have never looked back since. Instead, we're looking forward to the next 20 years or more. Congratulations, Adam, and thank you for an outstanding 20 years at Hadash.
$10,512,000 minutes. That is how we measure 20 years of our rabbi. So how do we measure this? In sermons, in Zoom calls, in gray hairs, in Manischewitz. Not really Manischewitz. I just couldn't help it because Manischewitz I thought fits so well in cups of coffee. I was also thinking about Oneg Shabbats, but the beat wasn't right. Yeah, Manischewitz doesn't fit with our humanistic rabbi. We have all sorts of wine at our celebrations. But back to the question, how do we measure 20 years of Rabbi Shalom? Do we measure in learning? One meaning of rabbi is teacher. And I don't have to tell everyone that Rabbi Shalom is very smart, you heard our kids, and very learned. Since I myself am afflicted with pediatric Judaism, I decided to join the adult B mitzvah class, although I didn't complete it. I still owe the rabbi a paper, and someday I will turn in my paper. This class, it was a great class. I think it was all women. We all learned about Jewish history and Jewish culture, and this class morphed into the rabbi's 2-year adult education program, which features Jewish history and culture. Check the website. It starts again in September. At least it was on the website. Rabbi Shalom, in addition to teaching the 2-year adult education program, he teaches a Sunday school class, and he visits the other grades to enhance the curriculum. When I taught Sunday school, I was very fond of the rabbi visits. I would try to lob all the hard topics off to him. When I was teaching life cycle in 2nd and 3rd grade, Rabbi Shalom came to the class to talk about funerals, which was great. This year I was teaching 6th and 7th grade, and I called on him to tackle such light topics as anti-Semitism, genocide, and the ongoing conflict in Israel-Gaza. I sat and learned with the class. He also spends time teaching our B mitzvah class and working with all the students on their presentations, and somehow still finds time to write his Shalom from Rabbi Shalom column and teach aspiring leaders and rabbis at the International Institute for Secular Humanistic Judaism, the IISHJ, where I'm on the board, and I'm really pleased to be working with Dean Shalom. He is the dean of the North American section. There are plenty of opportunities to learn from Rabbi Shalom. I think I learn whenever we talk, and he usually says something that makes me smile or laugh. So we can throw in measuring and humor too. Can we measure in leading? A traditional rabbi is a religious leader. As Andrea said, when Kol Hadash decided to hire a full-time rabbi, we were mostly lay-led, and our committees were tired. We wanted someone to speak at high holidays and at Shabbat, to court new members, but, as people has intimated, leading a group of people who think for themselves is, in the words of our rabbi, like herding cats, or catses. That's his joke, not mine. Now, our congregation is actually led by a steering committee, and the rabbi is not the chair of the steering committee. In fact, I had to fact check this one. He's not actually on the steering committee, He doesn't vote, but he is at every meeting, occasionally suggesting, cajoling, guiding, explaining. He smooths over the rough spots, and from time to time reminds us of who we are and what we're supposed to be doing. So, can we measure in listening and support? Our rabbi is also a counselor. And in one of his Shalom from Rabbi Shalom from December 2021, he wrote in part, I see my job as a pastoral counselor, to listen, to support, to encourage, to uplift, and most important, to empower. And when I'd never had a rabbi before. I grew up as what the rabbi calls glot secular. I wasn't affiliated, and I thought, oh, this is cool, I'll have a rabbi like on my speed dial. Simchas right here, Tzuras right here. But I did call on Rabbi Shalom when my father was diagnosed with cancer. And he visited our family at the hospital and the nursing home. He was one of the first people I called when my father died. He met with the family. He deftly handled my father's surviving siblings. And the eulogy he wrote and delivered was touching and moving. It was incredible. And this was the best thing. When Rabbi Shalom was about to begin his eulogy, he put the notes down, and he tried to adjust the light that was on the lectern. And it was wobbly, it was not correctable. And he grimaced and he turned around and he said, Stuart, that's my father's name, Stuart would have fixed this. And in that moment, everyone in the room nodded their heads in agreement, because he would have. He would have gone out to the car and gotten a screwdriver or borrowed a screwdriver from someone, and he would have fixed it. And that minute to me, of all the 10,512,000 minutes that Adam Shalom has been my rabbi, that was the best minute. Rabbi Shalom listened and learned about my father and honored him in the best way, with understanding and humor. So how do we measure? How do we measure 20 years of a rabbi? In learning, in guiding, in humor, in wisdom, in listening, in supporting, in understanding, and in love. Thank you, Rabbi.